Shalom, I want to give all praises, honors, and glories to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem Rakakodash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And I'm just going to go into a quick lesson about that so-called indigenous or so-called Native Americans are also Hebrew Israelites. Now, first, I have here Genesis, the 30th chapter, 11th verse. And Leah said, A troop cometh, and she called his name Gad. And Gad are the so-called indigenous, the so-called Native Americans. And because Gad are troops, Gad is the definition of Gad is a troop, basically. And you even have Native Americans that are really well known for their arsenal, actually. Their fighting tactics, all that. And when Andrew Jackson, all these other presidents back then, when they decided to come over into the Americas, also Christopher Columbus and all them, when they decided to come over to the Americas, they were attacking and ruling over the so-called indigenous, these so-called Native Americans. And so you have soldiers amongst these Native American tribes that were defending against these conquerors. And they, but the majority of our people, they were put into captivity because the Lord set it up that way, as for a curse that is poured upon us for our disobedience. But here I have Genesis chapter 49, verse 19. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. And this scripture is really just going into the histories and all those wars that the Confederates and the Native Americans had against each other. And there will be times that where Native Americans would successfully defend against the Confederates, and other times where the Confederates would actually take over the Native Americans and just kick them off their line or enslave them. One example that I can say is the defense, do stable defense, as what I heard from my school. According to that history, it goes into the indigenous successfully defending against the Confederates that are trying to conquer over them in the indigenous' own land, to put them into captivity. But yeah, I guess they had like a statue over there in Chicago called Du Stable. So yeah, that's like one example of wars against Esau and our people, especially. Wars of Esau that are against our people, which are the Native Americans, and the rest of the 12 tribes of Israel. But you know what? Let me get an example right here. Catman do Native American. Israel, see? And interesting is that other ways to actually prove that so-called indigenous, the so-called Native Americans, are Israelites, is because Esau himself even knows that that we so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans are the true Hebrew Israelites that the Bible speaks of because we fit the curses. Now I'm just gonna play this video because it's really edifying. Just show you that Esau knows that we are the true Hebrew Israelites.
This is my daughter, Catherine. Shalom Aleichem, Jackson 2 Bears. Mr. Ballou, what's the use of saying Shalom Aleichem to me? I'm a full Sioux Indian. I'm not one of the chosen people. All right, go ahead being stubborn if you want. Oh, I ain't stubborn. Oh, not much you ain't? According to an ex-congressman of these United States I heard give a lecture at the Chautauqua this winter, Indians is the lost tribe of Israel, but he won't admit it. Just ain't true. He was an ex-congressman of these United States, I tell you.
Oh, Papa, maybe he was mistaken.
Oh, no, he was not. Jackson just got a mean, stubborn streak in him is all. I brought Mr. Bernstein, the telegraph operator, out here from town last month, and he stood right where you're standing now, and he talked Hebrew at Jackson for 10 minutes by my watch, and Jackson pretended he didn't understand a word. Now, I call that stubborn. Well, I didn't understand a word. You see what I mean? Now, you get that trunk down out there. I'll get the sergeant.
But yeah, because of our disobedience, the Lord has scattered us amongst the heathen nations, and we are likened unto Gentiles, sold into captivity. And but yeah, in that video, you got Esau that is proclaiming correctly that so-called Native Americans are Israelites. And here's more proof of it in Deuteronomy. Yeah, Deuteronomy, the 33rd chapter of the 20th verse. And of Gad he said, Blessed is he that enlargeth Gad, and dwelleth as a lion, and teareth the arm with the crown of the head. And this part actually shows you that the tribe of Gad, which is one of the 12 tribes of Israel, is really speaking about the Native Americans, because right here it says, teareth the arm with the crown of the head. And when you search up just simply on Native Americans on Google, you just take any image that has this Native American's head, Native American's crown on his head. This is literally the crown that is speaking about in the Deuteronomy, the 20th verse, right here. And teareth the arm with the crown of the head. This right here that you see this so-called Native American is wearing is its crown, basically. Probably get a good example as well around these images too. Well, yeah, it's basically that, his crown. But yeah, that's right there to show you that the tribe of Gad are the so-called indigenous, which proving that, hey, us Israelites, us so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans are the true Hebrew Israelites that the Bible speaks of, especially that the fact that we, in a whole, we all minorities, so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, we fit the curses in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. But I'm just gonna get to the straight to the point. Not trying to make it long at all. But here it reads on the 64th verse, And the Lord shall scatter thee among all the people from one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. And because of our disobedience, because we have transgressed the laws, we choose to be disobedient unto Yahweh Bashem, Yahushua, the Lord has scattered us among these heathen nations, and we were brought into captivity under them. These heathen nations, they were ruling over us. We were put into harsh bondage, and we were serving other gods. We were basically being likened unto Gentiles, disobedient. Verse 65, and among these nations shall thou find no ease, there shall the sole of thy feet have rest, but the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart, and failing of eyes, and sorrow of mind. And all of us, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Americans, we were all put into captivity, and we find no ease, and we had no rest in our slavery time, and we're still in slavery, even continuing this unto this day too, because we're living in a poverty rate. We don't have much to eat, and it's very financially difficult for us Israelites, really. Verse 66, and thy life shall hang it thou before thee, and thou shalt fear the day and night, and shall have none assurance of thy life. In the morning thou shalt say, would God it were even, and at even thou shalt say, would God it were morning. For the fear of thine heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again, into bondage again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Really explaining how, us so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Arab Americans were sent to captivity. These captors, they put us into captivity, but all this was a curse against us because we disobeyed Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai. If you read all of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, you will easily see that us so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans fit the curses in this chapter, and no other people fit these curses but us, which proves that, hey, we are the true Hebrew Israelites that the Bible speaks of. But yeah, that was it to that lesson, and I hope it was edifying. I want to give all praises, honors, and glories to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakagodash, and Shalom.